Hi, I'm Jay Evans, the CEO of Kirtan. We make the Twister branded products. Come follow me inside. We're going to talk about the T0 Pro. So this is the T0. It's a culmination of everything we've learned since 2007 in designing equipment and processing solutions for the cannabis space. So we designed this with three things in mind: safety, both consumer safety and operator safety; throughput, so speed, how fast it is; and quality. And quality to us is the most important piece. Not quality of the product, which we care a lot about, but quality of the end product for the consumer. We really understand, and being in the space for so long, we understand what the end consumer wants. Making sure that the product, the flower, is preserved as much as possible through automation. So we designed this machine for people who are very serious about cannabis production. It's the largest, fastest cannabis trimmer in the world. It'll do 125 pounds an hour dry or 500 to 600 pounds an hour wet. There's no machine on the market that will do those speeds with the quality of the T0. The T0 ships at over 10,000 pounds. It's configurable in multiple ways. Now, what you see here is the conveyor system, which feeds the machine. The next portion is the trimmer that actually trims the leaf off the flower. The leaf gets transported into the cyclone system, which deposits the trimmed leaf onto a conveyor. And from there, we have the filter stacks. That purifies the air in the room to hospital quality. We love to work with producers on designing their facilities. Now, this again has many configurations. So if we get in early, we can help you design your facility for the most optimal workflow. So now let's start looking at the individual components, and we'll start with the conveyor. The conveyors were designed to feed the machine very consistently. You can see these are all stainless. They're actually also useful when you integrate them into your full production system. So you can have other conveyors feed this, which then feeds the machine. Now the advantage of the conveyors, again, is it feeds the material in very consistently, and it takes away the labor of having to hand feed the machine. You'll see here, this is a laser triangulation device. It measures how much material is on the conveyor and speeds up and slows down the conveyor to ensure the machine gets the proper feed rate. The conveyor is really easy to clean because it's all stainless, and the belt flips up so you can get underneath of it. Again, super important for cleanability. It's height adjustable. It's on casters so you can move it. Start by taking off the safety cover. It's normally bolted on. So one of the critical design elements on here is the end of the conveyor flips up. Now, why is that important? Well, it loosens the belt to allow you to clean underneath. So what happens in many conveyors is material can get underneath, especially this material, because it's so sticky. Once it gets underneath, the belt moves and it gets hot. Then it starts to stick, and then the belt doesn't work well. So we've designed it so that the chute lands on top of the belt or over top of the belt so material doesn't get under. And if it does, again, really easy to clean. All stainless, all smooth surfaces. You can power wash it. I'll flip this back down and we'll put it back together and we'll go look at the other end. So when this is the QC conveyor, we have some safety chutes that come off to protect the operators. The material falls on the conveyor and it rolls off into your bins at the end. You can actually have this waterfall into another conveyor or change the height. We have some chairs set up here so QC can slide chairs under and do quality control. Or again, like I said, go off onto another conveyor. It's the same belt on the other end, FDA approved belt. Same stainless sides. The belt flips up the same way so you can get underneath and clean it just as easy. It's on caster so it rolls. And you can also pivot or change the angle perpendicular, so if you have a different room layout, you can adjust the workflow. Now let's go look at the trimmer portion of the machine. This portion right here does the majority of the work. Now you'll notice it's mainly stainless steel, or it's all stainless steel on the outside. We'll look at the inside in a second. The lid is perforated. Now that's designed to allow a lot of air to move through into the machine. We'll open it up and look inside. Well, you notice that the lid's locked right now, and that's for safety. Before I open it, you'll notice there's lights inside that allow you to see into the machine. It's very important to see what's happening inside. The lid's on gas shock, so it lifts really easily. And as you stand back, you can see there's these big drums inside. We call those the tumblers. There's two, and above is a food grade nylon brush. We'll talk about more of that in a second. Now, why is there two tumblers? Well, the goal of this machine is to move flour through very fast. So you have untrimmed flour at the start, and by the time it's out the other end, it's trimmed. Now, underneath of this tumbler is a set of blades, and we'll look at those in a minute as well. The leaf gets pulled through this tumbler by vacuum. The blades cut the leaf, and as the flower moves through the machine, it gets cut more and more and more until it's completely cut out the other end. The goal is to have flower move through the machine in 45 seconds or less. So that's really important. We want to make sure the flower moves through really fast so it doesn't get agitated too much. Now, the tumblers, because there's two of them, you can have a smaller slot at the beginning, a larger slot at the beginning and a smaller slot at the second stage. Now that allows big leaf and big pieces to get pulled through and cut fast. And at the other end, it does the fine trim. Now, let's talk about the brush more. The brush is, let's move down to this one actually, because this one's already out. The brush is a food grade nylon, like I mentioned. It's designed to poke the flower that gets stuck in the tumbler back into the tumbler. Now, small little pieces will get stuck in there and the brush pushes them back in. The brush also cleans the tumbler. Now, cannabis being very sticky, and especially on wet trimming, there's a lot of things that can get stuck to the tumbler. So the brush is very useful for that. Now, actually I'll take the brush out first to show you how fast it comes out. Again, cleaning, very important. So you can take the brush out and clean that. We have a special machine that'll clean that for you. Now, behind the brush we call this a spray bar, and within the spray bar is a bunch of sprayers, these little spray nozzles. You can connect reverse osmosis water or purified water or even tap water to this, and it'll transfer water by spraying water from the spray bar onto the brush. Now, that's used only in wet trimming, but it's important because it adds moisture liquid to the tumbler, which then transfers to the inside of the tumbler, which makes flour not stick to it. It makes the machine work very efficiently. Next, we'll look inside. So this is a guide to keep the tumbler in place. So inside, you'll notice the tumbler is all stainless steel. Now, there's no coatings on it, because we've done coatings in the past, and while they work great for non-stick, they flake off, they end up in your material. So we've gone away from coatings. We now use just nice polished, really highly polished stainless. We also use no plastics or wires. Wires can get pulled into the blades and get chopped up. This is just, it's tried, tested, and true. It works very well. It's very round. So it's very important that the tumbler is round because it has to get very close to the blades. Now, the tumbler, again, like I said earlier, you can get different slot sizes. There's 3 different slot sizes. So if you had a big fan leaf, you'd have a bigger slot size because it allows the fan leaf to get in there. If you had a very large, chunky pieces of flour, same thing, you'd want a bigger slot size. Now, if you're dry trimming some little popcorn pieces, you want a smaller slot size. Now let's look at taking this tumbler out. So let's look at the blades. We'll show them on the other side over here. So to get access to the blades below the tumbler, you have to remove loosen the belt. Walk that belt off. So here you can see the blades. There's 2 sets of blades on this side and 2 sets of blades on the other side. Now, the black flat bar here is nitride hardened tool steel. Inside is a rotating helix blade that has 8 individual blades on it that spins against the flat blade. Now, it acts as scissors. As the blade spins, leaf gets pulled through and gets cut. If you have very leafy or outdoor woody plants, you can remove that vac bar and it allows more of the blade to be exposed, which allows big leaf to get pulled in and trimmed off. This machine does very, very well on big leaf. Now, we can spin these blades up to 1,000 times a minute, and we can slow them down as well. Now, why is that important? If you speed the blades up, you'll get a smaller milled sized leaf. Now, that will give you, if you're doing extractions, it's valuable. Now, if you want a bigger leaf, you'll slow the blades down. You'll also know the blades are quite large, and that was by design as well. You're cutting thousands of stems a day, and this machine is designed for a continuous duty cycle. So we want to be able to continuously cut stem without slowing the machine down. Now, another reason is as resin builds up, it also slows the machine down. These blades have a lot of inertia and they move through any material that gets in the way. There's also air that passes through the blades, and this is designed to allow air to move through the blades to the vacuum. So the leaf makes contact with the blades once, the leaf gets trapped in the air path and moves its way through the cyclone. These blades, we could have chosen 2 blades, 6 blades, 18 blades. With a lot of R&D and testing, 8 blades was the magic number. They're designed so air can flow through them And as the leaf is cut, it flows through into the airstream and ends up into the collection bin. Let's see how sharp the blades are now with a piece of paper. So picture this being a piece of leaf. Let's spin the blades. Very clean cuts, which means some machines will rip or pull, other machines will grind. This cuts very, very clean. And that's the whole point of the machine. You pull the leaf through the tumbler and cut it very clean, whether it's wet or dry. So the last thing to share on the blades is there's pins on the ends that you pull out and the blades flip up, both top and bottom, for easy cleaning. So if you want to power wash the machine out, which is very common, you can do that quite easily. There's shrouds below the blades that keep them protected and everyone's safe. We can pull these latches off, pull the shroud out, and you get full access from top and bottom of the entire blade assembly. This whole cartridge is designed to come out. And the reason that's important is if you ever damage the blades, if scissors make it into the machine, or if for some reason a rock or a tie get into the machine, and typically the machine will cut through things like scissors and ties, but if for some reason it doesn't and it damages the blades, you can obviously replace the blades, but you can also change the whole cartridge. If we design new blade styles, this machine's future-proofed because you can drop a new cartridge in. One last thing on the blades is they're designed so that if you want to run the blades so there's no contact and still get a really clean cut, you can. Now, we recommend the blades always make contact because there is a self-sharpening feature in them. As the blades make contact, they keep the edges square, and that allows the blades to have a very long life. So now let's go below and see what's below the blades. Down here you'll notice this shroud houses the blades. We can pull these latches off and get full access to them, front and back. You'll notice on the side here there's a tumbler motor, this all stainless washdown motor. This drives the tumblers and makes them spin. Again, you can adjust the speed there. This side we have the blade motor. It's a 20 horsepower washdown stainless motor. Again, the machine's designed for continuous duty cycle, so we wanted to make sure that no matter how big the harvest is or how hard you push this machine, it'll be able to handle the work. Over here you'll notice this is a lifting mechanism. It allows the machine, or allows the operator to lift the machine up and down, which changes the flow rate of the material going through the machine. You don't see it on this machine, but we also have a option for full CIP washdown. So there's a stainless bed that sits in below, some spray balls that go inside, and essentially a system that mounts or connects to this machine that allows you to push a button and the whole machine cleans itself. So let's look at what this motor drives. It's on the other side. So now we're looking at the other side of the motor we just saw. Inside we have the motor that drives this series of pulleys. Now, you'll notice there's two belts, and redundancy was important to us. Durability is very important to us. We want zero downtime. So if there was ever something that happened with one belt, you have a backup. Keep in mind, we can also we do ship everything within 24 hours. So if there was an issue on this machine, we can have it to you in 24 hours. So now that we've looked at the trimmer portion, let's look at the air system. We'll start with the cyclone. There's the conveyor piece, the trimming section, the air system. There's two primary pieces. There's the air filtration and trim collection. Air is pulled through these hoses with trim captured in the air. The trim moves into the cyclone, it spins up and over and gets deposited into what we call the rotary airlock. The airlock deposits the trim onto this conveyor. This conveyor is just for an example. You could raise it, lower it, have it go into a different room, different bins. So let's look at the airlock really quick. The airlock is designed to continuously drop material onto the conveyor. Now you can do this without the airlock. We can have a bin and you can change the bins out as they fill. A bin will fill every hour. This just eliminates having to change bins out and stop your production. Now let's look up at the cyclone itself. As you'll see, there's some pipes on here. These pipes are part of the integrated CIP system. So cleaning again is very important for us. You connect a hose to here, you turn the valves on, turn on the switch, and the machine cleans itself. So with the CIP system, you're able to clean the entire machine, both cyclone and trimmer, in less than an hour. Okay, now let's look inside the cyclone. There's two handles that release the door. So this is what inside the cyclone looks like. You'll notice some simple things here, like a spray ball. There's a spray ball here, a spray ball behind, there's spray balls inside. That's all part of the CIP system. So what we use very hot water with caustic, to clean inside the machine. It's all stainless, so it's all corrosion free. So that combination of materials, or that combination of water and caustic, is used in brewing, it's used in food production, so it's very, very safe. You'll notice there's flour inside the machine and back here, and we test with flour quite often because of how fine it is. We found the flour to be 95%, this cyclone to be 95% efficient in removing the flour, which is very, very high efficiency. And on trim, it's 99% efficient. So what happens to the stuff that gets past the cyclone? It ends up in the next stage of filtration. Another important thing to talk about with a cyclone is the trim preservation. Now, trim being so valuable these days with extracts, concentrates, edibles, pre-rolls. If you have very high quality flour, often the trim from that flour is very useful in pre-rolls. So we ensure that the trim doesn't make contact with any impellers. It's a free path all the way through until it lands on the conveyor. That gives you very high quality trim. Many facilities are paying for the entire machine with just the trim alone. Now, as far as the height of the cyclone goes, there's some variation there. If you have a very low ceiling, we can lower the height. We can put a low profile conveyor underneath of it. We can transition that to different size conveyors or different height conveyors. Now, if you have a high ceiling and you want to use swappable bins, stainless steel bins, we can lift this up and we can put a different system underneath. We can change the bins out very quickly. Now let's go to the next stage of the filtration system. So as you can see, this filtration system is multi-stages. There's the cyclone first. It comes into a filtration system here, which has multiple filters, and then the HEPA filtration up top. So at the end of this entire thing, when we test flour, for instance, flour being very fine, nothing gets through. So 99.9% of particles 0.3 microns or less will not make it through this. Very, very small particles. We take health and safety very seriously. And one of the big things that's important for us is people's well-being who are working in the trim room. And there's things such as pollen or trichomes or just dust in general that floats in the air. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to remove that from the people's workspace. And we did that with this system. So we'll start by opening this up and showing you inside what the filtration looks like. It's essentially a very high efficiency HEPA filtration system. So as you'll see, there's some pleated filters in here. The pleated filters are covered by a micron mesh bag. This mesh bag grabs larger particles. The second stage of the filter grabs smaller stuff. And then as you go through the filtration system, you'll end up in a HEPA filter. So we're separating out or stopping 99.9% of small particles, particulate, that's under 0.3 microns. So very, very small things will not make it past this filter, essentially making pure air in the trim rooms. Now if you've been in a trim room, you notice that your skin may be irritated, you may have to wear a mask, you may have to take allergy medication. There's a lot of things that bother people when they're in a trim room. This eliminates all that. So we'll start by looking at the filters. Filters are quite easy to remove and change. They don't need to be changed very often. If anything, they just need to be cleaned or vacuumed out. You can see this machine was used recently for flour, so there's some flour back here somewhere. I see some flour on the bag. What'll happen is, as material builds on this, at nighttime, we have something called pulse jet. So pulse jet is an air tank, an air reservoir that delivers very high pressure air from the inside of these filters and blows off anything that's stuck on the outside. Now you usually run that feature at nighttime. Everything that's blown off lands in this collection bin below. So within that collection bin, you can clean that. It's very rare you get to clean this. The only time this would maybe fill up fast is if you forgot to change one of the stainless drums. Now, that's usually not an issue because we have a warning to let you know that the drum's being filled. But if that were the case, this is where it will all be captured. So we'll go to the next stage, and this is all controlled by the HMIs, so there's no need to worry about how to set it up. We can help you set that up. So we'll walk around the far side. So in this stage of the filter, or the filtration system, or the air system, is the HEPA filtration. Now this will capture 99.9% of particulate 0.3 microns or less. So to put that in perspective, an average allergen is 10 microns. Now 10 microns would get captured in this section of the filter, this stage. So what this is doing is essentially making hospital quality air. So the next stage of this system is the fan portion. So there's an impeller inside this housing, there's a motor below. It's a 25 horsepower motor that moves 5,000 CFM of air, so it moves a ton of air. 23 inches of static pressure, so this combination has a ton of sucker joules. This thing moves a ton of air. Now, moving that much air makes a fair amount of noise. So what we can do with this system is you can actually remote mount this somewhere else. You can remote mount it in a different part of the building, as well as we put a muffler on the other side of it that reduces the noise a lot as well. Let's go look at that. Now this portion of the air system is the muffler. The muffler is really important to reduce the sound. Now you can add an extension of this and make it quieter. You can add insulated duct to make it even quieter. You can actually mount this outside of the room. So you can get this down to around 85 decibels. Now again, we take health and safety very seriously. So whatever we can do to improve the environment for the staff is very important to us. So now let's go look at the last feature on the air system. So on the back side of the air system, and something that we don't talk a lot about, is this explosion vent. Now, this is designed it's a safety feature. It's very unlikely it's needed in most jurisdictions, but in areas where the NFPA requires it, we've made sure we have this. Anytime you move small particles very fast, there's a risk of explosion. Now, with cannabis, the risk is extremely low. Regardless, health and safety is really important to us, so we made sure we have this. Let's go talk about some more safety stuff. So here we have the HMI. This controls the whole system. The whole system's got industrial automation. So everything from the conveyor input speed. Now that's critical in terms of how fast the machine gets fed. The tumbler speed, which is also critical in how fast the material moves through the tumbler. The blade speed, which impacts the size of milling of the trim. The output conveyor speed, which impacts how fast material flows past the people who are doing quality control. The fan speed, which impacts how much suction the machine pulls on the flour. All these things can be adjusted. The tilt of the machine is actually all automatic. You can raise and lower the machine. So recipes are pre-programmed or actually user set parameters. Now, as an example, you set the conveyor speed, you set the tumbler speed, you set the vacuum speed, you set the QC conveyor speed. Now, why is all that important? Between cultivars or different strains of cannabis, you're gonna have different characteristics. A really airy or larfy or light sativa will need different parameters than a heavy, chunky kush. So you program that in. Once you get it dialed in, you program that in, and when you switch between cultivars, one button, and it sets the machine all up how you need it to work. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important to us for consistency. We know that brands are built on consistency, so how do we make things consistent? This is how, with the recipes. So one of the things we'll check out really quickly is the electrical system in the T0. As you'll notice, it's full commercial automation, dual monitor safety, Ethernet connectivity, complete industrial grade components. Safety is paramount to us. Building equipment since 2007, we've realized that it's needed now more than ever. And with the T0, we met some very stringent requirements. So whether it's CE, CSA, UL, SIL 3, which is one of the highest safety ratings you can get, GMP compliant, Z 432A, no matter where around the world you're operating the T0, we're confident we'll meet the strictest safety requirements. So that concludes the walk through the T0 Pro. We're grateful to work with the best producers around the world. And if you're ready to join that elite group, our team wants to work with you. That's a wrap.